Ordyne is a horizontal shooter that was released in 1988 in arcades and later ported as a system exclusive to the PC Engine in 1989 with a US release in 1990. This is a game I happen to own new and unopened, so let's check it out together. This is Retro Impressions and Reviews, a show dedicated to answering if video games from the past are still worth your time today. I picked this game up knowing nothing about it due to the box alone. It's colorful, has ships, the word shooting is printed in large font, and the flying turtles look really freaking sweet. What's not to love? The back has 4 lousy and blurry in-game pictures, and a game description that doesn't really help close the sale. Well, let's crack it open and have a look inside. Inside is the case containing the game and a styrofoam block. NEC strictly used jewel cases for all their games, no matter if they were card or CD based. All TG-16 games also came with a very sweet protective cover and a clip to hold the game in place. The manual is cleanly done and offers 14 pages fully explaining every aspect of the game, along with tips for beating each boss, details on the story, and info on how to access a hidden game mode. It's beyond adequate while still offering nothing special. Looking over the plot, you will find that there isn't a whole ton here, and as with the vast majority of arcade ports, I don't really expect there to be. Dr. Tamari, who you control as player 1, and his assistant, who is assigned to the second player, are in search of the kidnapped Miss Kana. We're told that Kabuto is holding her hostage and that she has a key to Ordyne hanging around her neck. So what exactly is Ordyne? It's a nuclear reactor, and beside being mentioned in the manual and being the game's namesake, it has zero importance going forward. I guess you don't really need to know much more, as it's kind of done in a Quantum Leap style where you take control of Dr. Tamari without having any real information or insight into the situation beyond who kidnapped who and who needs to be saved. As the game doesn't really focus on the story, we'll wrap it up here and move on. This is considered by most to be a cute 'em up, and the brightness of each stage along with the character designs are a good indication as to why. The controls are extremely responsive and the game is very straightforward. You have 2 weapons by default. Button 2 fires your laser beams, while button 1 drops bombs. Weapon upgrades are handled via a store called the Space Inn, where you can exchange crystals you collect for what's being offered. Most of these don't last long, but once you learn the level layouts, holding them back for use on a boss becomes a viable option. There is also a casino called the Dream Company Space Lottery, where you can wager crystals for the opportunity to win an upgrade. This is well worth it, and in my opinion, a must-do every opportunity you get. I love both of these places, along with the atmosphere that they contain and add to the game. Also notable is that Pac-Man makes a cameo as a ship upgrade. There are 7 fairly enjoyable levels that offer nothing really memorable in their design, but there doesn't necessarily need to be when the package as a whole is well put together. And with Ordyne, it is. The first stage is called air-to-air combat. Fight your way through the enemy-filled clouds to the end boss, which is a giant airship. Next, it's down to a lava-filled cave containing a boss called the Giant Blue Turtle. Yeah, it's not blue. From here, it's on to the obligatory 1980s water level. The boss here is called Hot Top, and a little known fact is that it's the result of an experimental breeding program consisting of the apartment that the Jetsons live in and the Space Needle. Once you've dispatched Hot Top, you're out of the water and on to the next level. The boss here is a hover ship that goes down fairly quick. Level 5 takes place in a crystal cave, with the end boss being a really cool looking robotic lion. I wonder what they call this boss in the manual. The Crystal Palace? What kind of name is that? Anyways, it's back to the clouds and the expected boss rush occurs. The only notable thing here is that the giant blue turtle is blue this time. The end boss is Mr. Robot, and once you've taken him down, you're on to the final stage, Kabuto's Palace. It has a crazy design, mixing alphabet blocks, Legos, and elements from Mega Man onto one stage. Even entering the final battle feels very heavily influenced by Mega Man with the opening and closing gate. The last stage, as expected, is no cakewalk, but if you can take down Kabuto, then you have finished the game. You're treated to a small cutscene of the escape, then a couple more cutscenes that make zero sense to me. And I mean, I have no freaking clue what I'm watching here. What impresses me most about this is how close it holds up to the arcade release. Sure, the arcade has better graphics along with actual depth to the background, but this game has everything the arcade was selling and more. Although some visual alterations to the stages were made, the port retains the arcade feeling through a variation of subtle changes that just work. All the stages, bosses, and music are present, and nothing feels watered down. The TurboGrafx also contains an extra mode that's accessed by holding down the select button and pressing A. Well, I mean, that was according to the manual, but there's no A button. So hold down button 1. A new title screen will appear with Kana's name on it. This mode lets you play through as Kana. It seems to be a bit more difficult and contains a new ending, making it very much worth the additional playthrough. One final note about this mode, I'm fairly certain after seeing the ending that Kana has a screw or two loose. So let's look at some common complaints people have, starting with the difficulty. I see a lot of flack about the game being on the easy side, but for me, it was spot on perfect. Any more difficult and it would have severely hampered the experience for me. This is a game you can pick up, play, and become proficient enough to beat within a reasonable amount of time. And for me, that is what I'm looking for. Another complaint is in regard to how weapons work. There are a series of issues people have that I'm not going to get into because I believe that every one of them stem from expectations people have based on games containing similar features or a similar setup that they may have played previous to playing this one. Really, it's the perfect setup as the shops and casinos are amazing, and the decision to limit how long you can use a weapon after purchasing it keeps the game from becoming a pushover in the difficulty department. Finally, I find the audio to be problematic, and it's specific to the sound effects. I'm not one to harp on older games that have utilized bad choices for sound effects, and this is something that this game is guilty of, but my real issue is the lack of sound effects in certain areas and for certain actions, and it really does take away from the package as a whole. Things like the complete lack of audio in the opening sequence, or when your ship gets destroyed, is rather disappointing. The music, on the other hand, is really good, and even though some sound effects are absent, there are a ton of music tracks. What's most important is that the music represents the game, stages, and bosses well, and this soundtrack accomplishes this in spades. My final score, 6 out of 10. In the end, this is a quirky little shooter that is primed to satisfy an appetite anyone might have for this style of gameplay. The art design is well done, there is in-game content that is both quirky and memorable, and the fact that it offers more content and personality than its arcade counterpart really makes this the definitive version. I don't think you can play this game and not enjoy it unless you're the kind of person that finds no enjoyment in these kind of shooters. Thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a positive or negative comment letting me know your thoughts. Click subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Until next time, I'm Jenovi, and this has been Retro Impressions and Reviews.